like to call this meeting to order. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Paul Jenderski,
Here.
Christine Newman, Michael Nesbitt,
Present.
Edgar Titoff is absent, Kathy Harris,
Present.
Darcy McSwain,
Present.
Jennifer Rosser Nesbitt.
Here.
Do we have any adjustments to the agenda?
Letter E, Haunted House Halloween Fireworks. You should have a copy of the permit and information about that in front of you.
Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve.
Any support?
Support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes. Any announcement or public comment? Okay. Spicer Engineer Report.
Good evening, Council. Austin Alexander with Spicer. Hope you all had a fun 4th. A few different things going on, a few things wrapping up, and a few things kind of getting close to kicking off. So, on the TMF grant side of things, we've had the trucks working, the past, obviously since the last month to date, we're at 520 services located, service materials verified. Of those 520, we've found 53 galvanized services and 3 lead services. I think it was 3 lead last month as well, so we haven't found any of those in the last month, but still finding some of those galvanized. We've got about 50 plus or minus left in the project scope, including a lot of ones where they're moving into now is getting into things where it's a hard surface, so whether it's asphalt drive or concrete drive. They've been doing all the prep work for those this week, and they'll probably finish that up tomorrow. So they're kind of cutting out that little hockey puck out of those driveways rather than having to pull out and do a full new slab of concrete or a big old patch of asphalt. They actually did one for the village hall service out in the parking lot, so you can kind of see where they got the 2 donuts still sitting there. But then they'll finish that tomorrow, and then like Friday, Monday, they'll come through and actually pull those up, do their work, verify the material, and then they'll backfill and be able to kind of restore that surface without having to do a big old excavation. We're also going to be working with Monchalab to help us. There's 18 services that we weren't able to find, Village DPW wasn't able to find, and with them focusing still a lot on brush, we're going to call in MEC to come. They've got a locator where they can actually hook up and try and energize some of the service lines to be able to find the curb stop where we haven't been able to find them with just a traditional metal detector. So we coordinating that, but otherwise it kind of looks like we're thinking end of next week or the week after to kind of wrap up our locating efforts. We'll see. There's always a little, a couple loose ends that need to get tied up. But should kind of have a final total for y'all and at the August meeting. On the 2025 water improvements, so we've got our RD application submitted, waiting for some of the kind of final responses there. We had all of the trees that are within the project scope removed in the last month, but we've left the stumps because, as Hart mentioned last month, the grant or the RD application, that state funding, that federal funding, doesn't cover the cost of removing trees, but it does cover the cost of grinding stumps. So you got to do those separate. I don't know who drew that line in the sand, but that's how they did it. So we'll kind of got that as a first little kickoff item, but we'll finish up the application, still on pace for like a fall winter bid, and we'll kind of see how they go with construction, whether they still want to do that this fall / winter if it's mild versus kicking it off to first thing in the spring. On our Safe Routes to School project, we did a site walkthrough last week. So they just walked that whole stretch of Walnut to make sure, yep, we want the sidewalks here and the crosswalks here and all those items there. Hart, they'll be touching with you with some follow-up items and do a site walkthrough with you as well, but everything's on pace with that project too. Relevant to both of those is we did submit those 2 Category B grant applications last month. So again, that was an application for $250,000 in matching funds from the state, specifically for road work. And the one thing that the village has in its favor on those applications is we're trying to pair that road work with the water main improvements was one of our applications, or pairing it with the sidewalks, safe routes to school projects. So the state likes it when you kind of do those paired up projects, like if we're gonna tear stuff out, let's tear everything out and, you know, do it all together at the same time. But the thing not working in the village's favor is that, you know, received that grant 2 years ago, which I think was a big part of why we didn't get it last year when we applied. Maybe this year will be better, we'll see. And then lastly, code of ordinance updates, so we're just finishing up those last, you know, revisions, walking through the revisions. I'll have the meeting next month, Mark will be at, and then probably in August, we'll do the kind of final wrap up, you know, have all the revisions ready to publish and everything there, so.
Spicer, does that have anything to do with the new roads coming in, with the millage they passed? We figured
We
out what
haven't
roads,
done any
what
of the work.
roads we're doing or not doing?
No.
Well, that'd be more through MDOT, at least you're talking about on M52 where they did the repaving.
county road.
It's county money, but it'll go into our local street village fund, and we can use it as match for the category B, or we can look for roads to do ourselves, which they don't normally help out too much with.
Any other questions? Kind of a larger update. All right, appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Council minutes approval.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the June 11th, 2025 regular meeting.
I'll support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Alright. Commission and committee reports. Planning Commission.
I'll make a motion to approve the planning commission minutes of the regular June 19th, 2025 meeting.
Actually, we don't approve them, we accept them.
I thought we approved them. I think we did. Okay, I make a motion to accept.
Okay.
I'll support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Parks and Rec.
I'll make a motion to accept and file the Park and Recreation Committee meeting minutes from June 18th.
I'll support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Downtown Development Authority, there is none.
They'll meet Friday, because of the holiday, with Fourth of July holiday, they moved it 1 week back, so we'll meet Friday morning.
Alright, communications, Saginaw Future.
Just a thank you, thought I'd share it with you, let you know that your efforts are appreciated.
Alright. Payment of claims.
That's the only thing I see out here, what the heck's going on with the truck, why did we, need repairs on a brand new truck, isn't that covered under warranty?
Chief, it was during the early mornings of the tornado, about 2-3 a.m. It was backed into,
Well, actually,
or
the fire chief went to move it and backed into another vehicle.
I got you.
And so what we did is we covered for the insurance because they're paying for it. The fire department's paying for the damages since he was the one that moved it.
I have a question. What is this BC, I'm sorry, on page 7,
BC3,
yeah.
that's our old IT right, it's our computer system, that our security system.
Okay.
And that contract was approved by council, I think, last month, or the month before.
I'll make a motion, we accept the payments in the amount of $175,168.01.
I'll second.
Okay, you can get a roll call?
Paul Jandrowski,
Yep.
Christine Newman,
Yes.
Michael Nesbitt,
Yes.
Edgar Titoff is absent, Kathy Harris,
Yes.
Darcy McSwain,
Yes.
Jennifer Rosser Nesbitt.
Yes.
Okay, new business. Letter A, resolution and annexation.
This is our village attorney, Adam Flory, from Smith Level, to handle the resolutions today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Village Manager. Thank you, Mr. President. It's a pleasure to see everyone here this evening, and members of the public, thank you for having me here. Mr. President, the matter in front of the Village Council for the resolution relating to the annexation relates to two properties that are present in the Village of St. Charles. Those properties are 1260 North Main Street and 1100 North Main Street, both of which are present in the Village of St. Charles's geographic boundaries. The Village of St. Charles has received a request from the property owner that those properties be essentially let out of the village's geographic boundaries. There is a provision under the General Law Village Act, it's MCL 74.6, which provides the council with the authority to engage in a mechanism to either take property into the village's boundaries or let it out. So that is a possible mechanism that the village could engage in if it wanted to. But of course, there's several steps in that process. It's not as simple as the village just making a proclamation. But nonetheless, given that the request has come in, I think it's wise that we address it in some way. Ultimately, it's the council's determination what it would like to do with the request. Theoretically, we could grant the request in the sense that we could proceed down the path towards letting these properties go. But my presumption would be that we would not want to do that. From a legal perspective, there's not a lot of benefit to the village to releasing these properties, and there certainly is detriment in the sense that we would then lose tax value and tax basis. And also, there are rules with relating to when you let property go, certain properties that would no longer be part of the village have to be adjacent to another municipality. So basically, the smaller that you make your municipality, the more likely you are to lose more property. And so from a legal perspective, I would recommend that we deny the request, and that's what the resolution in front of you does, is it denies the request to let these properties out under MCL 74.6 and simply says that we are choosing to retain these properties within the geographic boundaries of the village. I'd be happy to answer any questions that there may be.
Well, the village per se doesn't own the property, because they can't just say, hey, do we really have a say in that? And
So-
can he do it on his own?
The village does not own the properties, that's correct. The village could initiate the mechanism under the General Law Village Act, which if we really wanted to, and it involves starting an issue with the county as well as with the state agency relating to boundary lines and the such. And so if the village really wanted to release certain property, we could. But it's, again, I don't believe that it behooves the village to do so. I don't believe there's any advantage to the village to do so. So the individual has certain options to do it. I would respectfully submit we probably shouldn't talk about those too much in open session, just because we don't want to be giving legal advice to someone that may not be aligned with our interests. If the village wanted to discuss that in greater detail, I'd recommend we do that in a closed session. But the short answer is there are certain options for that individual, but the most direct route to have this accomplished would be for the village to adopt a resolution and for the village to essentially do the lion's share of the work.
Well, speaking of line, if he was on the line, let's say he was on the edge of the property where it was, well, right on the edge of the village, it would be a little easier for him to detach versus somebody being landlocked in the middle of it?
Correct, yes, yep,
But he is landlocked in the middle of it.
yeah,
Pardon?
He is landlocked in the middle of it.
right.
Just asking a
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, but your question is correct, very much so, and that related to my second point, which is that when you're on the edge, we see this with issues with school districts sometimes. If if someone's on the edge of one school district, they want to go into another that they're adjacent to. The school district that they're currently with does not like that usually, because then it pushes the edge further and further in. So it's sort of similar with detachment of properties inside the village. So your statement's correct, although it's with this property itself, this property's not on the edge. And so it's more so landlocked around other property inside the village.
My question would be in regards to water and sewer, would we have to provide that? Should this move to the county board of commissioners where they likely get to vote on what St. Charles is and isn't, which I don't know how many county commissioners have even been to St. Charles other than Mr. Harris. Would we have to provide those services?
Yeah, that's a great question, Mr. Manager, and in terms of that, in order for us to provide utility services, water and sewer, to a property that's not inside of our geographic boundaries, typically there has to be some kind of agreement or mechanism in place, such as an urban cooperation agreement between two municipalities, or some kind of sharing agreement between two municipalities relating to the tax basis for the property. But we would not provide water and sewer services to a property that's not in our village, absent some type of an agreement with the neighboring municipality. So again, in this case, there's simply not an upside to the village from our perspective, and it would create all kinds of just practical headaches with the provision of water and sewer just being one of them.
Is there other, go ahead.
Okay. It would also open up like a Pandora's box because we've never done this before.
Right, that's
We
correct.
usually use annexation as a mechanism to get them into the village. If you come in, we'll give you water and sewer.
Correct, and that's what I was referencing with regard to my second point of, it would make it easier for other properties to annex out of the village, which is not something desirable for us. And again, there are circumstances where we may want to annex a property in, given that perhaps a property in a township that wants utility services but does not otherwise have them, wants to come into the village. And those are the circumstances where the village would enter into an agreement with the township to split up and share the tax base in exchange for the village taking the property. But again, that's not what we have here. This would just be a straight loss for the village, and again, would essentially provide no upside
And
from
the
our
only,
perspective.
I don't know if you're all aware of this, but the only people we service with water are the people that were on the original line that we used to get the water from out by Brant Road into here. And when we put the water system in here, we agreed, yes, they could keep the water, but they pay a double rate, but we don't do that with anybody else. So that was an agreement that was made in the 60s, I believe, or 70s. Could have been 70s. I might be dating myself a little bit, but I think it was the 70s
So,
because I was still in high school.
What would happen, okay. What would happen if we did do that? Because there's other towns where they don't have a village. Let's just say like Richland Township. We become a St. Charles Township. What would be the
There is
ins
a
and outs
St.
of that, you know?
We have
There is a
township
St. Charles
and
Township.
village that.
I'm just saying, we're a village and we're a township. I don't think places like Hemlock have that.
They don't, but you're in St. Charles Township and I'm in Swan Creek Township.
Oh, I get it, because you're out that way, but
But
yeah.
that's, I mean, so we're all in a township.
We're
but
not
the
in
village
same
is-
township.
That doesn't matter.
It does.
So we have
No, it
three.
We pay St. Charles Township and St. Charles Village.
I
tax.
pay
So the
Swan Creek
problem with
Township
us
and
is we have three
St. Charles
townships with one village.
Mhm.
So that makes it even more complicated, and I'm not sure who set it up that way, but I see why they did it way back in the day, but it's very convoluted and it's very messy, because it's not just St. Charles Township, Village of St. Charles, it's,
Brant too.
yeah, it's three different townships involved.
that is an unusual arrangement. It's very unique. Most circumstances, you'll have a township and then you'll have a city or a village, inside. And that's, and it's just a one-to-one. And to have three municipalities for the village as one, that is more unusual.
Yeah.
So, if this were to be considered in the affirmative, there'd be all kinds of specific questions that we'd have to take up practically. The manager brought up the provision of water and sewer services, that would be one. A long-term effect of this, encouraging other properties to do the same. Again, losing tax base and shrinking our borders is not something that is in our best interest as a general matter.
Well, if you did, you'd still have to, and if you let them go, you'd still have to provide sewer and water services that are in front of their house, correct?
No.
So
You can't
again,
deny somebody water.
well,
Good
again,
well.
again,
Double their rates.
we'd have, right, it would have to be addressed, and so if that occurred, which again, I'm recommending that it not, but if that occurred, then all of a sudden, we would be, providing water and sewer service for a property that's not in our boundaries. And that would be contrary to the agreements we have now, which establishes a higher unit price for those
You
properties,
say you're
so.
penalizing them and double their rates if they got out.
Probably, I mean, at a minimum, even if it worked at all.
I mean, because that's what we did up there.
My final question, just if we did get to the hearing before the county board of commissioners, where all interested parties may appear and be heard relative to the proposed change in boundaries, you would represent the village, I presume?
Yes, I would, yes, sir, I'd be happy to, and, under such a circumstance, the applicant in this case would have to establish good cause, and essentially would have to account for all of these nuances, and so I've not seen that in this case, and so I don't know that this petition would be viewed favorably by the county. But if it did come to that, I would recommend that we have representation present and that we oppose the petition, in order to maintain our current boundaries.
If the majority of the people wanted it, could you really stop it?
There's only one person.
If the majority
Let's
of,
say it
Not
snowballs,
one
let's say it
person,
snowballs,
it's
you get
right
one, then you get two, then you get 20, 50, 100, understand what I'm saying? The majority say, you let one out. Get what
So-
I'm saying?
right, so we'd approach it on a case-by-case basis. I mean, if you had literally half of the municipality trying to annex out, that would be very unusual. And each one would be held to the same standard, where they would have to justify why they should get it in and of itself. But from the village's perspective, of course, it's in our interest to preserve our boundaries and our tax base, preserve our utility connections and those types of things, so.
So if we vote no, would the property owner, would they be able to sue us?
The short answer is there'd be no meritorious lawsuit. If you have $150 and a bus pass down to the courthouse, you can sue anyone for anything, unfortunately, and we see a lot of that. But there'd be no meritorious lawsuit. We're perfectly within our rights to consider this petition, which we're doing. We're having a thorough discussion of it. And so if the property, and Trustee Harris, perhaps your question also is, would they have some kind of appellate right? There are certain actions that the property owner could take. They wouldn't be so much suing the village, but they'd be more so sort of appealing our decision. However, again, in this case, I don't feel it would be meritorious. I don't feel that there's good cause for the appeal. And, again, in this case, I've not seen the justification that would render this appropriate, other than it's just a desire. They just requested it and said, this is what I want.
Can you tell us what we would lose or gain by doing one or the other?
Well, you'd lose the tax base, certainly. I mean,
Which means what? What would you lose if you lost the tax base? I think I already know the answer to
well,
that.
you'd no longer be the taxing authority for this property. So the tax dollars would not come to us, is for the two properties that are at issue. Also, again, it would place it would render our other properties more perilous, because it would make it more likely other properties would annex out. And it would, again, put our utility connections into sort of a dire state. Again, we couldn't just go on providing utility service for a property outside of our boundaries as business as usual.
You see the DPW, brush pickup, police, and all the goodies, they would leave that person or
Correct.
the whole
Yeah,
village?
right, well, correct. We don't provide services to folks outside of our village. So, just like we don't provide police service to folks in Saginaw Township, we're not gonna provide police service to someone who's out of our village. So that's what would occur in this case. But again, there would be lots of nuances in this circumstance, because the fact of the location of the parcels.
So it was at the end of the road, let's just say per se, it was on the edge, and it was on the end of the road. You're doubling the rates of sewage and water, and you're saying that you wouldn't plow the road and still service the utilities and stuff out there? I mean, would they have still
That
have
would be
brush picked up
county
and you had
then, right?
nothing?
Not with some kind of agreement with the township.
We,
And then mutual aid police, if we're closest, we would call it, but it'd come through the
You
county.
still have to have access to what I'm trying to get at for police and fire and ambulance or something.
It would
You
change
can't
this-
say, I'm not plowing that end of that road because he annexed out.
Oh, we could.
well,
Yes, we could.
We absolutely
well,
could.
but it's not a member of the
It still has to
village.
be passable.
The county can do it.
Well, there you go.
Then,
I mean,
the
it-
county would have to
yeah.
come out.
Yeah,
Road
do it,
commission
but they can
becomes
do it.
their jurisdiction.
again, we
And
don't,
that's where it gets a little messy.
right, as a general matter, we don't provide services to folks that are not within our village, because they're not paying for those services. They're not taxpayers, so we don't have any legal entitlement to provide them the services. So, again, this is an unusual one because of the placement of these two properties, where they're not on the edge. But again, I think this was a good discussion, it's good to talk about the nuances of it, but still, I think at the end of the day, we return to the fact that there's, allowing this property to annex out is not in the village's best interest.
I will ask one last question. Just reading through the resolution, the Village of St. Charles hereby denies the applicant's request, so they need to vote yes to deny?
Yes, thank you for that clarification. So if you are approving this resolution, so if you vote yes for the resolution, you're saying no to annexing out, okay? So an affirmative vote of yes to the resolution denies the request. So, thank you for that clarification.
Just reading version.
Yes, so I know, yeah, with that, the verb conjugation there, yeah, it's a little tricky. So, yeah, to say yes to this vote, if you make a motion to adopt the resolution, you are denying the requested annexation.
Any more questions? You guys ready
I
to?
feel like this is gonna be ongoing for some reason, I don't know.
But there's a legal process and we're following it, and
Yeah.
that's what we need to do.
Okay.
Would
There's-
you have to put this in the paper or something to let everybody know that this is happening? I mean, how does this work? How do you
In
let
your
everybody know?
packet, the entire process is in that sheet.
It's on that one sheet.
Okay,
Yeah, so there would be, the clerk would have to petition the boundary change,
okay, I did see.
published by the village. Yeah, there's a process.
There's the thing on here they have.
So, Mr. President, if there are no further questions, I would recommend that the council make a motion one way or another on the resolution. I respectfully recommend that the council make a motion to adopt the resolution, which denies the request. But of course, ultimately, the decision on whether to grant or, whether to adopt or deny the resolution is up to the council.
I'll make a motion that we didn't, accept resolution 25-11 denying the,
12. It would be 12.
12?
25,
Not the other one.
Yep.
Oh,
It's
I'm
missed.
doing the other one. Okay,
It's a 12.
12.
I'll support.
Roll call.
Paul
I
Jenderski,
say no, they want out, let them out.
Christine Newman,
Yes.
Michael Nesbitt,
Yes.
Edgar Titoff is absent, Kathy Harris,
Yes.
Darcy McSwain,
Yeah.
Jennifer Rosser Nesbitt.
Yes.
Resolution passed.
Resolution number 2 tonight. But wait, there's more. That was a good discussion. Good questions.
Resolution HR 19, immigration law 25-11.
Thank you, Mr. Manager, and if I may, Mr. President, what's before the village council this evening in regard to this resolution addresses a change in our legislature that has occurred recently. In the state legislature, as I'm sure we all know, appropriations bills, which relate to money, begin in the House of Representatives. There was a House resolution known as House Resolution 19 that was discussed and adopted by the State House. And the long and the short of it is that the resolution would change the way that the House of Representatives considers appropriations. It would prevent a vote from occurring on an appropriation for a municipality unless that municipality has adopted rules stating that it will comply with immigration law. So, again, to be clear on what I'm saying, funding from the state of Michigan the vote on that funding would be dependent on each municipality essentially agreeing that it will enforce federal immigration law. Now, on a day-to-day practical effect, each individual municipality is gonna have very little touch with federal immigration law. We're probably gonna have no interaction with it whatsoever. The bill is largely targeted to address much larger cities, some of whom are, or some of which rather are known as sanctuary cities, if anyone's familiar with that term. So, that I think is what the bill is intended to target, and the resolution is intended to address, but every municipality has sort of gotten caught up in it. So what the resolution in front of you provides is that we will comply with whatever the law is above us, which is our legal obligation, whether we like it or not. So it does not say we'll comply with a certain political party or a certain president. We will comply with what the law is right now under the current president, and
Is it state law or federal law?
so both, but it applies to both what would be done under this administration from a federal perspective as well as state, and any subsequent administration. So we're not promising to do anything other than comply with all of the law that we're already required to comply with. So I think it's a worthwhile thing to do, because I would not wanna see any funding interruptions to the village for something silly like this, which, again, for our perspective in the village of St. Charles, we are going to have very few occasions where we are interacting with federal immigration issues. So I think we're all committed to complying with the law anyway, and I don't think we lose anything by stating that. So all the resolution in front of you does is state that the village will adhere to all applicable law. If the council determines that it would like to adopt that resolution, I would then provide that to the clerk of the House of Representatives. I've done that, I've recommended all of my municipal clients adopt this, and most of them have, and I've done that so far for each of the clients who have, just to ensure that when bills come to the floor and that are going to include any kind of funding package for the village of St. Charles, that there are no delays caused by any ancillary issues like this. So, Mr. President, I would respectfully recommend that the council, after reviewing the resolution, I'd recommend that the council adopt the resolution, and then I would then take the approved resolution and provide it as a matter of record to the clerk of the State House of Representatives. And with that, Mr. President, I'd be happy to answer any questions there may be.
I would just add that in April, we met with the state rep that represents the village. They made an amendment, House Rule 52, which amends House Rule 19 about pork barrel spending or pet projects where you have to announce who the sponsor and co-sponsors are. I intend to go after grant funding through the state representative for our pump stations in the next fiscal year. So I recommend a yes vote to, we're gonna follow these and help ourselves try to get some state funds on top of the federal funds to improve our pump stations. And the tune, I'm looking at hopefully $1 million to $1.5 million.
Well, I don't see it
So they're
becoming a
saying
sanctuary
that-
village, come on.
It's not gonna do that, it's just so that,
No.
it shows that we are following their rules and we're more likely to.
We do have immigrants that come in here that we had before, I don't know about now, we did have.
We're following all the rules and laws, and so that's my intent for this.
You know, I think I remember the buses picking them up in the summertime and whatever, so.
Really?
I'm serious.
Oh, we
No,
did.
I'm not talking.
Oh, we did, I worked
I'm
with
serious,
that.
for the school.
Yeah, I worked with
In
the
the
school
summertime,
program.
we,
We went out and got
I
them.
ran the pool, they came swimming.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You went to the.
Nice baby.
Yeah, that's the program at Miller School, too. My mom
We
ran
did.
it. So they're saying that if we don't agree with this, or if we don't adopt this, that we get no federal.
They could hold up any pet
Right.
projects or pork spending
Don't give them a
or.
reason, is what he's saying.
Right, so, yeah, I think the writing on the wall would be that if we don't affirm that we will comply with the law, we just wouldn't get a vote. So it's not that it would be denied necessarily, but it would just be held up. And so, and with,
Hold up his words.
you know, situations where you're able to obtain grant funding or funding of different kinds, it can be difficult, and so I wouldn't want to place any of that funding in peril.
In jeopardy at all. Remember when the administrations changed, I had to call DC to see if we were still getting our $1 million USRD grant.
Right.
They froze all grant funds for quite a bit of time, but due to some good lobbying, mostly the local governments were held untouched.
Yes.
Any more questions? Somebody wanna make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we adopt resolution number 25-11.
I'll second.
Sorry.
Roll call?
Yes.
Paul Januski,
Yes.
Christine Newman.
Yes.
Michael Nesbitt,
Yes.
Edgar Titoff is absent, Kathy Harris,
Yes.
Darcy McSwain,
Yes.
Jennifer Rosser Nesbitt.
Yes.
Mr. President, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to meet you,
Thank
and
you.
members of council. I think the village manager as well, who's been excellent to work with.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Manager.
Mr. Manager was my dad.
That meeting was-
All right. Now we have stump bid for Coal Miners Park.
Yeah, so after the tornado, obviously coal miners got destroyed. We're still working on it. A lot of volunteers came in, helped clean up trees. 3 different tree companies came in and cut what they could. We still had hangers, but before the softball, baseball season continued on, they worked. Some didn't take funding, some, submitted receipts, but Chris wants to take care of the 12 stumps that remain on the front half of the park. No labor, just equipment. Pardon?
I mean, to interrupt you, some of it's gonna have to be removed. You're gonna have to fill some of that in with some dirt and what have you, right?
Dirt chips.
It ain't just a matter of grinding a stump.
No,
Well, we
they,
could-
they need to go. And he wants to do it. I know he's spoken with a few of you. What did he say exactly that you?
He told me that he wasn't looking to make any money on it. He just wanted to help the village out by grinding up the stumps.
Yeah,
Can I just have a question.
Yeah.
You said there were like 3 actual companies that came in and did work for free.
Mm-hmm.
Did you happen to bid these out to those 3 companies in addition to this one? Was this one of those
Most of
companies?
those companies use him, actually. I know
As
Thurston,
a- as a-
Thurston works with him closely, and so.
As the one that grinds out the stumps?
Yep.
So there's no way they could beat that.
So they can't do it?
Right.
He does it for them.
He's doing it for
Okay.
cost.
Yeah, just.
Oh, I know,
This is a good
this is a
price.
good
Stone.
price, that's great.
Yeah, and I
Just
think
gas
there ends up
and
being, I
whatnot.
think there's more than 12, and he said, yeah, I'll get the 13th, don't worry about it.
Okay,
But that gets us, that's a start. We still have to worry about what's in the back behind the
well,
apartment.
that's an excellent price, because I know what my daughter
Yeah.
paid for hers, because she was in the tornado too,
Yeah.
yeah.
Veteran owned, operated, fully insured, just trying to be a good human for the village.
Anybody wanna make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we accept the bid for $2,400 to CNC stump grinding.
Roll call?
Paul Januski,
Yeah.
Christine Newman,
Yeah.
Michael Nesbitt,
Yes.
Edgar Titoff is absent, Kathy Harris,
Yes.
Darcy McSwain,
Yes.
Jennifer Rosser Nesbitt.
Yes.
We have E, haunted house, Halloween fireworks.
Oh, G.
Sorry.
So we went
Oh, yeah.
back to court with Flint Street. We were successful. They'll add court fees to his taxes. They'll add everything, and now, should he not clean things up by August 1st, on August 2nd, we can go in and clean it up and charge him. This puts us a step closer to condemning the house and perhaps bulldozing the house. I have one quote, and I would have copies for you, but I don't want to give it out because of the price, and we're waiting on 2 more quotes. But if we vote on a yes to take, say, the lowest bid, before our next meeting, we can have it done. So I'm asking for a motion to approve the low bid on the 632 Flint cleanup. Last time, if
On
you
the
recall,
cleanup, right, just the cleanup.
if you recall, the person kind of bid it through Google Maps and bid $700 and showed up, and it was
Two-day
all,
job.
it was a 2-day job, like almost $7,000.
Volunteers.
Day and a half. So we will have police presence there so that there's no interaction amongst the groups. So This one's probably more in line with what it should cost. Not too expensive though.
Roughly, what are you saying?
I'm saying less than some 12 tree stumps if that cost.
Yeah.
Really?
So that's where we're starting at, and so that would be the motion to kind of cover us. That way, should things not get better, we can get to work the next day. Anything to add, Scott, as far as that cost? Anything to add?
No, the other, I haven't received the other two bids yet, I do have two others requested, so they should be in by next week. So it might be in by the end of this week.
So these are bids just to clean it out, not to take it down.
Correct.
Okay.
This is to clean it up again. This is, and what's the purpose of cleaning it up, and what's the next step, Scott?
Step is to clean it out, get the trash and debris out of the yard. Third time it happens, he actually was hit with the higher fee because it's happened so many times in the past 3 years. Next time, all we have to do is wait. If he doesn't pay it, it goes to his taxes. If it includes all the costs, cleanup costs, personnel costs to be there, such as the police department, myself, and attorney fees. So it all gets rolled into the cost of that cleanup. If he doesn't pay it, it gets put on his taxes and end up a lien.
Which haven't been paid in 3 years, and so when you take into low bid consideration, it looks like, we're being heartfelt about this, but they're going on his taxes anyway.
He is behind on his taxes, he just keeps paying enough to keep moving forward.
Okay.
Does anybody wanna make a motion for the lowest bid?
I'll make a motion that we accept the lowest bid for the cleanup at 632 Flint Street.
I'll second.
I need a roll call.
Paul Jenderski.
Yes.
Christine Newman. Michael Nesbitt.
Yes.
Edgar Titoff is absent. Kathy Harris.
Yes.
Darcy McSwain.
Yes.
Jennifer Rosser Nesbitt.
Yes.
My apologies, letter E, haunted house, Halloween fireworks.
Last month it was discussed on the haunted house wanted to put on a fireworks show on Halloween as part of the celebration. But Penny, if you wanna speak to this, there's a copy of their permit, their insurance, and kind of what they're trying to do. They are fundraising at the old Polk Town Days, I believe.
Yes, so, Representative of the Haunted House couldn't come tonight, so he was here, but he had to leave. They wanna do it on Halloween night on the bridge. I did submit the permit and the insurance, and I think it was a $10 million insurance policy, I can't remember. I don't have it in front of me, so they wanna do it for the 40th anniversary, so it's a one-time thing they wanna do for their 40th year to celebrate it. There's a picture of the site, the map on the rail trail where
You
they're
said
gonna
you would do it right on the bridge.
We're gonna do it right on the bridge, yeah. It's gonna be cakes,
It's
it's
one-
not gonna be any of the big shells, it can't be anything more than 3 inches because of the fallout zone.
And you're gonna have that part of the rail trail blocked
Yeah,
out.
you-
It's gonna be blocked out
Here,
over,
those images.
probably more at the end, on the other end of the DNR, whatever street that is over there, I'm not certain of the names. But we'll block off the rail trail
Here's what
way
they do
down
too.
on the other side of the DNR, and then we're gonna block it off
It's
on
on
the,
it.
behind the haunted
Oh,
house.
I did too.
Yeah.
I didn't have one.
On Bell Avenue, so that whole
Yeah.
section of the rail trail
So
will
it's
be
gonna
blocked
be in the
off.
middle of that
and
bridge.
At the time, probably a couple hours before the actual shoot
Mhm.
site, we'll block off the
Here's what they're gonna
kayak
shoot off.
boat launch, that park right there, for lumberjacks.
Okay, you're not gonna allow only the people involved in the fireworks
Is
on
it-
the bridge.
Yeah, no one else is allowed on there.
Okay, you're gonna have people there to make sure that doesn't.
Yep, we have security.
Fire?
So 3.
Fire department also?
For
Yes.
insurance and.
Yeah, pay
Yes,
for
we
it.
have to have the fire department, or at least notify them that it's their choice if they wanna stand and be there and have a truck station, but it's, the way I understand it, when I talked to Zach Tiley and stuff, that they would be willing to have a fire truck station, plus they're close enough. But we also carry fire extinguishers with us on our street site, we have to have 3 to meet the criteria.
Well, them woods are pretty old, they're catching on fire pretty easy.
We talked about it.
Dead
Is
wood.
there gonna be like a staging area for people to like park, or is it just wherever you can?
The
or-
DNR, would be one, if they wanna park over in the DNR parking lot.
DNR.
So I mean, it's really wherever they wanna park in the
Rosati's, they
village,
can probably do Rosati's and walk over.
Yeah.
so. There's always Thurston, stuff like
Mhm.
that,
Mm-hmm.
so,
So you take this permit approved by the village to the state or to the county?
nope, that's it,
This is
that's
it?
all, yep, that's all we're required,
And the permit expiration date would then be,
Halloween.
okay.
It's everywhere.
I got yours. Mine.
What if it rains that
This is
night?
yours.
I don't know.
Okay.
Well, then, we usually do it the very next night, but if it rains at night, I don't know if the Halloween, if they wanna do it. Because their last day is on the 1st of November. We usually do the rain delay the very next day, unless it's Chesney, then they push it out a week. Just did that to me.
Yeah.
So- And I mean, that's something they can discuss with you guys too, like, hey, this is our proposed day for a rain day. And if it's something that you guys agree upon, for a rain delay day. Like I said, their last day is November 1st anyways.
Yeah, rain date 11/1, and we could set the permit expiration date at 11/1 or something like that.
Mhm.
I'll make a motion that we allow the haunted house to do the firework
I'll support.
surprise.
They do a lot for the community, so,
Mhm.
Yes.
I mean, if they wanna do it and they're gonna cover the cost,
Yeah.
why stop it? It might
I
bring a
wanna
lot of
add
people
with
into the town.
expiration date being 11/1.
Okay,
Yeah.
and I can have that changed on the permits.
You roll call on that one?
You might as well,
Okay.
just to be safe.
Okay.
Paul Jenderski,
Yes.
Christine Newman,
Yes.
Michael Nesbitt,
Yes.
Edgar Titoff is absent, Kathy Harris,
Yes.
Darcy McSwain,
Yes.
Jennifer Rosser Nesbitt.
Yes. Thanks, Ben.
Got that.
Yeah, thank you, Connie.
Okay. No business. Now we have department reports, DPW.
Jason is on vacation this week. You have his report in front of you.
I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
I saw on Facebook that people were saying that the flowers downtown were
Yep.
wilting.
I did see that.
My daughter mentioned that, and I said, look, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, they're gonna get dry. We don't come in and water flowers on the 3 days that we're off.
Right.
And they look fine today.
It was been
So,
hot.
yeah.
hot. Mary Beth watered, we put
I just
six,
wanted to say-
we put 600 gallons into all the pots on Monday. What happens is you have vacations.
Yep.
And things don't
It was
always get
hot.
covered and.
I did see a DDA member respond and say that you guys are gonna talk about it, I
Oh,
guess, at your DDA meeting.
I believe it.
Okay, just
I
wanted
do,
to-
we did have a DPW member who got up and went out to water and was told by the supervisor that we're not doing that, it just rained. So, but we've since taken care of it. Obviously I haven't talked to Jason about it, he's off for the week, so. Hopefully the baskets at the corner come back, but all the flowering pots for DDA are fine. John Dusick called as well to discuss it.
Somebody told me not to
My
water.
other
People for
question
picking up
is-
all the brush, I know it's quite a mess after the tornado. or
Right.
whatever.
Right.
They just got their seat picked up at the park. and-
Yep.
Yeah, so
My other
it's a lot of work.
question is, when will the rest of the brush at the park be picked up? Do you have any idea?
It'll be a monthly, back on the monthly schedule, as part of the whole town, first full week of the month.
When is, who's going to take care of the part that's in the pine trees there?
We haven't figured that out yet. We gotta figure out how to get equipment back there. One member of the park committee suggested a lone climber that would reach out to and maybe see if he'd be willing to get back there, but.
It looks awful back there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you don't wanna lose it all and lose the disc golf course either.
Right.
Just go in there chopping, so that's gotta be done right, so. Conversations are being had.
Just wondered,
Yep, good questions.
it's been a while since the tornado, I just want,
Okay, police?
Alright, so we had, geez, I got this stuff mixed up. 4 districts, traffic stops, 17 citations for the month, 5 arrests. Most of them were warrants. I actually had them walk into me. I was doing a background check on a pistol purchase permit, and first time I've done that, and somebody actually had a warrant for the arrest, so. But it wasn't a charge where he couldn't get his permit, so he finished the permit, and then we went to jail. He was fine with it. He said, might as well take care of it, so. Some of the calls, the vulnerable adult issue, that's stemming between 2 different townships, so we're kind of working jointly on that, but that's, the main one is it's the child that came back here to this East Walnut address, and, things that maybe Hark can touch on that was said about Officer Dean and her actions for that call, cause I was not here when she came into the office.
Oh, just huge praise. She's doing a wonderful job. Her heart's in it. Her heart's in the right place. She cares about St. Charles, and thank you. That was yesterday.
The one main issue is she's been trying with another township where this vulnerable adult lives to try and get him help. Cause she was a caregiver for a while and they weren't doing anything about it, and then something happened in our town, in our village, that we could take care of it, and Officer Dean took care of it, so. She was just happy that something finally was done. The intimidation, the burglary, the B&E, it's like a lover's quarrel, basically, is what it is. It was already dropped by the prosecutor's office. They denied the charges on that. The child neglect, that's, has to do with I think it was a 5-year-old nonverbal autistic child that I had running down the roadway beginning of the month. CPS went to, took care of that one. Nothing else really that I can see that's of any, that's out of the ordinary from the normal stuff. The VIN inspection there, that's the first, salvage vehicle inspection that I had since taking the class. I have another one on Thursday, so that'll be the second one. I think that's it.
Thanks.
Thank you, Chief.
Yep.
Nikki, I want a question.
If he's gonna have a question, can we go to closed session, please?
All that is somebody asked me, and I'm just gonna ask you, why are you the only one driving the police vehicle? I've been asked 100
truck?
times. The truck.
Yeah, cause it was mine.
It's not yours. It's not yours.
It's my baby.
Village owns it, not you. It's not Jason Oliver's.
It's my baby.
It's not yours. Village
Okay,
owns it.
let's move on to building inspector. Thank you, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
You're welcome.
Hello, everyone. All right. For the month of June, we had 6 new permits and 1 add-on to an existing permit. There was 1 electrical, 1 mechanical, 2 building, and 2 zoning permits. For comps, we had the 2 on Flint, the 1 went to court. We got a default judgment on that, thanks to Adam Flory here. He handled it very well in court for us.
Thank you, Scott. Truly thanks to Scott.
The second one, the second notice of violation has gone out, and I'll be checking that one next week to see if there's any further progress on that. The one on Main Street, they were given an extension due to health complications. The owner of that property his health is declining rapidly, so his attorney/daughter has asked for an additional extension, and that has been granted.
I believe it was said that the neighbors are willing to help once the wet ground kind of hardens a little bit to start moving some things.
Yeah, so the neighbors the majority of the neighbors are involved with that in the immediate vicinity. And then the one we had on Walnut has been taken care of, it's resolved. There are grass complaints that come in that I do not track because I go out and I look and I tell Marguerite handles the complaints, she sends out the notices, and DPW cuts the grass if they don't get cut. So I don't put that in my report because I'm not doing very much. So, but that's all I have. So, any questions?
No, I would just say with tall grass, most people when they get the letter, they call, say, hey, I have a broken foot. I got somebody coming over, can they give me another week, and we'll give a week, but it is expensive if we do have to cut it. It does go under their taxes, it's probably a minimum of about $300 for not very much work normally, but there are some houses where it's just like, holy cow.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Scott,
Yeah.
is anyone living in that house on Bell Avenue, maybe right next to where Denny and Karen Wood used to live? The White House that,
With all the grass,
yeah.
looks empty.
I'm not sure I would have to get an address and check it out. I'm not in the township or the village enough to know who's living where. Not
Which
like
part of
others.
Bell Road?
It's in the 800 box.
800 block of
Oh,
westbound?
Westbound,
On the
I think she moved out.
east
on the
side of the
north
street?
side.
I think she moved out, right?
Which one?
East or west.
What's her name?
52 or north.
Oh, Westbound, the
Bavasi.
north
The
side.
Vasey, she has a place in Harrison, she stays at a lot.
In the summer.
I know,
I think she's saying,
It's back and forth.
okay.
the church.
Some days she wants to be with that guy. The other day that she comes in and says that he's kidnapping her.
Honey, that's been going on for years.
Yeah.
It's still going on. Just so you know, it's still there.
I've been
We're doing it all the
retired,
time.
I've been retired 16 years and it was going on.
When I started, she was staying in Harrison, her place in Harrison for the summer. Stay away from them.
Apparently her kids aren't cutting the grass for her either.
They won't, they don't even talk to her, because they're tired of dealing with it.
I didn't know that.
Thanks, Scott.
Okay.
Public comment.
I don't know who this would pertain to. Who takes care of the sidewalks uptown in front of the businesses?
As far as,
In front of the dentist office, they did water work or line work. That sidewalk is terrible.
bad.
Is that the DPW or?
Yeah, they tried to patch it and create it and kind of cover up.
Oh, yeah,
that
it's all
hole, but-
heaved up and everything.
Yeah.
Dentist's office. I noticed that at Memorial Day Parade.
Yeah, 'cause I talked to her while I was in there last year and she said they had to go underneath her business to do a, for water that was uptown here.
Yeah.
And now her driveway's junk and everything. And that sidewalk is really bad.
If it's part of the water project, we look into that, Austin.
Yep.
And see what we can do.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I think we should have put a flashing light or a sign up for the new stop sign, or I about ran through it. I've been driving through there all these years, been driving through there, and
You
I'm,
get maybe.
right at the last second, I hit the brakes going, holy crap.
2 out of 5 people, I've probably seen thousands of people.
That's what I'm saying, if you've been driving through there all these years, you don't even think about it,
Yeah,
there's never
yeah.
been a stop
Or
sign.
they'll stop right in the middle.
Can I get a motion for adjournment?
I would just have one announcement. There is an opening on the planning commission. If anybody is interested, submit a letter of interest or email of interest to the village office or manager at stcmi.com.
Motion to adjourn?
Support.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right.